It is the appointed time. Take a seat. Take a seat, please. Welcome. Item 1 on the agenda. Thank you. You're being very kind. Confirmation of minutes. Please confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of February 2018. That's in paper CP bracket 1742/1718. Let the clerk see you first. The clerk has not received any proposals for amendments. Can we confirm the minutes, please? Thank you. Item 2. Information papers issued since the last meeting. There are 4. And they are already listed in the agenda. As you can see, letter from Chan Han-pan, Administration's response to Hui Chi-fung, and also a paper on Wan Chai District Council. Thank you. Number 3, items for discussion at the next meeting. Mr. Ted Hui, would you like to follow up? Okay, item 2, Mr. Hui. Or item 3, please. Okay. We'd like to invite the administration to come in now. And we can also invite the representatives also from CLP Power and Hong Kong Electric. The next meeting will be held on the 28th of May, on Monday at 2:30 p.m. 2 items. 1, latest progress of the protection of endangered species of animals and plants, and 2, latest progress of the Cleaner Production Partnership Program. Members, what do you think about these 2 items? I'd like to ask about a point of order. We have 2 hours on the EAP today, but next door we have the Co-location Bill Committee, which is being held concurrently. I'd like to ask you whether you have been consulted or whether members have been consulted in order to add this extra meeting. These items are important, but then I may have to go to the other room if you have taken down my name for attendance. I think the situation is very unsatisfactory. Thank you for raising the point, Mr. Chan. Before the meeting, or I should say, the co-location meeting should have been scheduled for 4:30 instead of 2:30, but I had no idea that it would be extended so that it duplicates with me, and my consent was not sought. Since I don't know the exact situation, I was only notified by the clerk that the co-location bill would overlap with this meeting. I will take up this point with Mrs. Regina Ip, the chairman of the co-location committee. Thank you, Mr. Dennis Kwok. Well, I think this is not the right way to do things. Actually, even if she did not consult you, she should have informed the clerk of the panel. If she hadn't done so, it represented gross disrespect. Mr. Ted Hui, I'd like to protest this particular arrangement. I'm not protesting against you, but the chairman of the Co-location Bill Committee, because it makes it impossible for us to be present at both meetings. Both meetings are important, and I have chosen to stay here. I hope this will not set a precedent, but this is a serious protest against the meeting next door. Can I also address a point under this item? At the next meeting, we are going to hear the latest progress of the protection of endangered species and animals and plants. As you know, I am following up on the return or otherwise of the sea turtles in Shamwan. Many representatives would like to have a public hearing so they can air their views. I'd like to see whether you can arrange a public meeting. Well, I'll seek an understanding with the clerk to see whether we can extend the time slot for the next meeting, to see whether we can include a public hearing at the next meeting. How should we arrange a public hearing? Should we hold it together with the meeting of the panel? Well, it depends, Chairman. Well, okay. With regard to the third item, items for discussion at the next meeting, and the first one, latest progress of the protection of endangered species and of animals and plants. Would anyone object to having a public hearing? If not, we'll try to see whether we can hold it on the same day. If not, we'll fix another date. We'll inform the green groups. and also those we have been inviting in the past will issue the notice, and we will also show the notice on the relevant apps websites for people to sign up. Thank you. Item 4. Implementation details concerning renewable energy, energy efficiency and conservation, and fuel clause charge adjustment under the post-2018 scheme of control agreements. For this item, as you can see, apart from government officials, we have representatives of CLP Power and Hong Kong Electric. Each party has prepared a PowerPoint, and altogether they will take about half an hour, but I don't think we can allow it. The administration, can you use about 8 to 10 minutes, and then CLP Power and Hong Kong Electric should use 5 minutes each. We hope to complete the presentation within 15 to 20 minutes so members can ask questions. As you can see, we have 3 papers. Okay, without further ado, let us get started. Mr. Liu. Thank you, Chairman. In April last year, we signed the post-2018 scheme of control agreements with the 2 power companies. These agreements will start in October this year and January next year, respectively. This is the greenest agreements reached with the power companies ever, and the focus is to promote energy efficiency and renewable energy. Ever since, we have been discussing with the power companies about implementation details to make sure that the agreements can really promote energy efficiency and also development of renewable energy so as to help us improve the environment and reduce carbon emission. With regard to EEC, energy efficiency and conservation, well, we have the award scheme and it will be expanded and there will be new elements. The 2 power companies will have different details of the project, but then overall speaking, the funding will first be allocated to residential and SMEs and non-government organizations and disadvantaged groups. As for environment or energy audit, we will encourage the power companies to do 4 times what they are doing now. And the energy efficiency funding will extend from residential to commercial and industrial buildings. And it will also include retrofitting and retro-commissioning. And as for CLP and also Hong Kong Electric, they are going to increase the funding by 5 times. And the existing education fund will be doubled. As for the energy savings loan funds, the scope will be expanded to include all EE and C related incentives. And also the power companies will assign 65% of the energy award to set up a community energy savings fund. In 2019, the 2 companies will roll out schemes in order to help the disadvantaged groups. For example, for subdivided units, they will help them to replace or purchase energy efficient electrical alliances, and also there will be rewiring work for installation of separate electricity meters. Since the CLP Power will make available a bigger funding, therefore in 2019 there will be extra schemes for CLP in 2019 to promote energy efficiency. As for the use of renewable energy, we are going to introduce the feed-in tariff, or FIT, in order to provide incentives to the community. We have considered the costing of different renewable energies, and we are going to look at the volume of electricity in order to set 3 levels for FIT. For the smallest systems, each unit will attract $5, and then the medium size $4, and big size $3. As for the village houses and other energy efficiency systems on top of residential buildings, usually they will be able to fetch $5 per unit, and that will be subject to annual reviews. As for the individuals who take part in the scheme, they will stick to the same level for FIT until 2033 throughout the project life of the RE systems. We think this is attractive because it can shorten the cost repay period of renewable energy to about 10 years. This will encourage individuals and organizations to set up such RE systems in their places. Now we have listed different scenarios where you can get fit for small systems. Say at still houses at Tai O, if you set these solar voltaic panels on top of the houses, it will be about 6 kilowatts, and these will cover 3 still houses, covering about a quarter of a basketball court. And if they take part in the FIT system, they will get $5 per kilowatt hour. And for medium-sized systems, like the one at the airport police station, the area would be about half a basketball court. And if we look at this system will fetch $4 per unit. And a large one can be found at the EMSD headquarters. This is like about 2.5 standard swimming pools, and the FIT is $3 per unit. The power companies will also sell RE certificates. So the community can buy these certificates in order to support the development of RE in Hong Kong. The income will help to offset the impact of FIT on tariff. It can also enhance the public's environment awareness so they know more about RE. The price of these RE will be set according to market appetite and will be reviewed annually. Also, for those people and organizations who would like to also take part in developing RE, the EMSD and power companies have set up websites and hotlines to provide useful information and to handle inquiries.
The EMSD is now upgrading its website, the HKRE.net, to provide information, for example, the solar systems operators, the name list of that, to facilitate the citizens to find the relevant operators and contractors. And also there are some frequently asked questions and answers, etc. And also there will be some seminars and briefings for the trade to enhance the latter's understanding of the regulatory and requirements of setting up RE installations. Now, another one is the FCC adjustment. There had been interest from or concerns about the balances maintained in the power companies' respective fuel clause recovery accounts, the FCAs. And under the new mechanism, every month there will be an adjustment to it so that the fuel clause charge can be more better reflected in tariffs in a more timely manner, and to avoid accumulation of large surplus balances in the power company's fuel clause recovery accounts. And we hope that with this there will be a better transition to low carbon environment. And the power companies will be talking about the various aspects, including the application procedure. Next, is it Hong Kong Electric? Is it Mr. Wan of Hong Kong Electric who will be making the presentation? Limit your presentation to 5 minutes, please. Thank you, Chair. Over the many years, Hong Kong Electric had been responding to the government's requirements and call for efficiency of fuel use. Now, the power consumption is actually less than 10 years ago. That means that power conservation and energy conservation, it has been effective. Now, in January, with the implementation of the agreement, we will be optimizing and deepening our plans for conservation of energy, to use the limited resources into the priority areas, including the disadvantaged sectors of society, and also to the buildings with less capacity both or resources both financially and capabilities wise. we would want to increase or enhance the efficiency of the buildings and to work together with the different sectors in Hong Kong to develop renewable energy and also attain the goals of lower carbon energy usage in Hong Kong. My colleague will continue with the presentation. Thank you, Chair. Members, today I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the 3 measures under the Hong Kong Electric Plan, including the 3 areas of, first of all, energy conservation. We will use our limited resources to prioritize the use of that to the disadvantaged sectors which do not have the resources financially and also technically and also knowledge-wise. We would want them to be prioritized as a result by our company. And also, there will be 5 items in electricity conservation, one of which is that for the buildings, there will be an increase to $25 million to help some buildings to conserve energy, and these would include non-commercial buildings as well as industrial and commercial buildings. And further, there will be audits from the 50, which is a target now, to 200. And also there will be a loan fund that we will provide for, in particular, the commercial customers to help them bring in measures to conserve the to conserve energy. And also there will be an education fund which will promote the understanding and implementation of conservation of energy. And also there will be another fund which will be helping the underprivileged families and the units, including subdivided units, to install their independent meters, as well as for families to use electricity conserving or efficient electrical appliances. And also there will be a new TIF. With that, there will be more encouragement for locally generated power. As for the tariffs, in order for the tariffs to better and more on a more timely basis reflect the fuel costs, there will be a monthly adjustment in the future. Say, for instance, the July tariffs will be referenced to the March, April, and May fuel costs or charge. And also there will be promotion programs for the stakeholders and users so that we will join hands and work towards conservation and also be responsive to the environment. And this is our timetable. We have this information on our website, and also in August we will be coming up with the relevant information concerning the tariffs. And in October, we will have the details concerning the renewable energy certificate. And there will be further information coming out in 2019 as well. Well, thank you very much. That's very clear. And next we will have, is it Mr. Chung of CLP who will do the presentation? Yes, indeed. Thank you, Chair. For CLP, actually, we have given the Secretariat of the LegCo a document already. But in terms of time, for today, at this meeting, we will not go into all the details, but we will look at some of the highlights. For CLP, actually, in October, the new agreement will come to implementation, and it is indeed a very important milestone for our company. We have always been supportive of the government's environmental policy and climate change strategy. And with the 2013 plus plan of the government for lowering of carbon emission, we will be, as a response to that, committed to promoting local renewable energy development and energy efficiency and conservation, and we will proactively introduce related new initiatives. And also we will have the two funds, as mentioned by Mr. Lau just now, to promote the different sectors in promoting renewable energy and clean energy development. We have actually put in a lot of work in this regard. At present, there are 300 renewable energy systems which have been connected to CLP grid. And also in terms of stakeholders' views and education, we have done a lot of work as well. Now, before we start with any system or project, we talk to the green groups, the customers, the local residents, the district councils, and also our users to find out their views and their opinions and suggestions. And through our surveys, we know that 60% of our customers are very supportive of wind and solar energy, and they're willing to pay more for this kind of renewable energy. As for our tariffs compared to internationally, it is highly attractive. We would therefore want to be given due attention by our customers and also the citizens of Hong Kong, and also to have them included into our efforts. We understand that this is a very important project, and therefore, in terms of customers and also contractors, we will be giving our support. And in particular, we will be, for the customers and contractors, we will establish a dedicated hotline, mobile phone apps, websites, and leaflets, information kits, and also we will have an advisory team which is dedicated to providing further service to them. And also we'll be collaborating with the government so that our customers and the contractors would know the relevant information, the technical requirements, and also the relevant application procedures so that they can connect up to the CLP grid. Now, as for the tariffs and the purchase methodology, we will need to take time to listen to the stakeholders' views, and this will be announced in the third quarter of the year. And also we have different items which will be implemented or coming to the market either in the fourth quarter or January of next year. Together with the different stakeholders and cooperative parties, we will be coming up with more solutions that are in keeping with the requirements of society. Now, if you look at the screen, as you can see, we already have set up a hotline to respond to customers' inquiries, and in early May, for the relevant information and videos, they'll be made available on our website for customers' reference. And at the same time, in early May, we will be announcing the details of our new CLP Eco Building Fund, and we will be accepting applications for feed-in tariffs. As for the Eco Building Fund, we will be increasing that to 100 million Hong Kong dollars per year. Hopefully, we'll be able to support more buildings and also public areas in their energy conservation and optimization. The fund at present only covers residential. In the future, it will also cover industrial and commercial buildings as well. And mid-year, we will be introducing the CLP Power's support to tenants of subdivided flats, and also with our CLP Power Connect program and products purchase scheme under the Community Energy Saving Fund. Basically, with this, it is perhaps the biggest ever in Hong Kong's history of energy conservation, and the participant customers and users can actually choose the underprivileged sector that they want to support through this program. And also there will be support to the subdivided flat users as well as to the disadvantaged sectors with energy saving appliances. And in November, there will be announcement of the scheme details on renewable energy certificates. And I believe, members, you will be in support of renewable energy development in Hong Kong. And I do hope that you will provide us with questions or opinions so that we optimize this program. Thank you very much. Yes, I see a lot of interest among members. And this is the order. Leung Kai-chung, Chan Ha-kung, Luk Chung-hung, Wu Chi-wei, Kwok Wai-chang, and myself, Leung Yu-chung, Yik Chi-ming, and also Hui Chi-fung. Leung Kai-chung first, 4 minutes each, including Q&A. Thank you, Chair. Concerning this fit-in tariff topic, I'm looking at the tariff now. I do not have any major issues with it. When it is implemented, we will look at, after a period of time, whether it needs review. Now, I'm looking at the government paper. I'm a little bit surprised about certain aspects of it. For instance, there is a paragraph talking about renewable energy devices and where they have been connected to the grid. They should be registered under the commercial as a commercial concern, and also they will have to pay profits tax. Well, I can understand that this is technically necessary, but it is difficult for some to connect up to the grid, and then they will have to pay $2,000 to do a business registration and then be paying tax as well, or filing their tax return at least. Now, I see that for environmental friendly devices, there is a change. Let's say there will be a 100% depreciation. That is to say, even with the filing of the tax return, it should be that no tax should be payable. I mean, with this kind of requirement as in the document, it is too cumbersome for the citizens of Hong Kong. On the one hand, it's already difficult for them to want to connect up to the grid, and then they have to pay costs. Some for the business registration and pay tax. I mean, it is already a cost of at least $50,000 or $100,000 already. Why do they have to do this?
Mr. Leung, I can understand your question. That is why my paper has registered that concern. This is the concern particularly of residential units. If they want to go for RE, we should facilitate them. That is why there is an intermental review. I believe, Mr. Leung, you will be able to secure this in future. All right, I'll wait and see. Let's see what adjustments can be made. I will take your word for that now. I only have that question. Well, I also have that question, said the chairman. Next member, Mr. Gary Chan, please. Thank you, Chairman. I support the development of RE. I believe the fit is attractive, but it seems people who are interested in using solar panels are mostly in the NT. They are in NT small houses, meaning that the development is quite sporadic, and therefore the cost effectiveness may be low. When members of the public set up these panels, they may meet up with major technical problems. I don't know, in Hong Kong, whether anyone has proposed to set up solar panels in a large scale. In April, I went to the mainland. This is An Hui. Basically, it's a deserted hilltop, and large-scale photovoltaic panels have been set, and beneath that, they grow plants. And the other one is above a fish pond. This is of a very large scale, and it can generate electricity for the use of a town for an entire year. We do not have such space in Hong Kong, but if we only go for sporadic development, the effectiveness would not be very high. Has the SARG thought about developing solar energy on a large scale? Maybe you can encourage commercial buildings to do so on their glass wall and also on their rooftop. I believe that will help you boost efficiency. Second question. RE only takes up 0.1% of power generation in Hong Kong. You said that by 2022 it should rise to 3%. It's still a big distance off. But compared to Asia, people are using 30% RE. Is our target set too low? Secretary, can you be more aggressive? 3 questions. Secretary. Chairman, I think Mr. Chan has a point there. The residents may use FIT, so we support them with energy generation in the community. The volume is always limited. As you know, we have less space in Hong Kong, and therefore the government will play a leading role. In the recent budget, the FS has put aside $1 billion instead of just $200 million for the purpose. And it is said that at sewage treatment plants or reservoirs, if there is space, and also on the rooftop of government buildings, we are trying to expand the program. We have got positive reply from the relevant departments. But at the same time, the FIT will have a stimulus effect on both old and new buildings. We are talking to the Beam Society to see how this can be done. And earlier on, the Hong Kong Climate Blueprint 2030 Plus has talked about the potential of EEC and RE. It is quoted that in Asia, people are using RE up to 30%, but if you look deeper, you will see half of that has to do with aquatic power. You know, Hong Kong doesn't have it. So this is not comparing apple with apple. You have to understand what we are talking about. Let us look at how much solar energy people are using instead of RE. Having said that, at the end of the year, we are going to consult the public again to see how we can really reduce carbon emission by also using RE. Mr. Michael Look. Thank you, Chair. All along, I have cared, or I'm concerned about owner of SDUs who are selling electricity for a profit illegally. This is the consensus also of members from different political affiliations. In the paper, you say that under the new agreement, the 2 power companies will set up the Community Energy Savings Fund in order to support SDUs by providing separate electricity meters for them. Now, I'd like to ask the administration, do you think it's a problem and that needs to be solved in that people are selling electricity illegally? And also, if you are going to set up this fund to help SDUs to install separate meters, how many successful cases do you think you can secure? Do you have a target in order to measure the success or otherwise of the scheme? Because you have achieved very little success indeed. I believe the case number is at about 10. Now, it has been so difficult. What kind of new ways and means can you make use of in order to convince owners and OIs in order to help them resolve this long-standing problem? Why do you think you can do it now? Last question. If what you are going to propose is not going to help the SDUs, and the SDUs still have to suffer from double exploitation from their owners, that is in terms of marked up tariff and illegal sale of marked up electricity, would you accept my private member's bill that you should legislate to prohibit the sale of energy or electricity for profit? Mr. Liu. The Community Energy Saving Fund of the 2 companies are mostly targeting the disadvantaged groups. A part of that has been put aside for SDU tenants. Now, one way to do it is to set up separate electricity meters for them. Whether this is possible, it depends on the situation of a particular unit. The SDU has to secure the consent of the owner and the manager of the building. and the SDU must comply with safety and other conditions before the power company can dig into the CESF in order to help them set up a separate meter. Since SDUs differ, well, we have heard that before and we understand that, Chairman. Why don't you answer my question directly? Do you think that this is a problem? Do you have an indicator for success or otherwise? If you don't achieve the indicator, what is the next step? And that is whether you would accept his private member's bill. There can be different ways to help SDUs. Separate electricity meters is just one way. The power companies are think of other ways and means to help them, say, to help them replace or purchase energy-efficient electrical appliances. The power companies are looking into this, and when there are details, we'll announce them. All in all, the principle or the objective is to do their utmost to help SDUs so they do not have to pay so much tariff. He has not answered my question. I'm asking you whether you think this is a problem that has to be solved and how. Of course, everybody wants to save energy, and that is an environment issue, but I'm talking about double exploitation. Do you have any determination to resolve this? Secretary, a brief reply, please. This time around, we are going to make the best use of this opportunity of the new agreements with the two companies in order to help the different strata in society in order to cope with certain issues. Under our framework, we will try to do our best. Why legislative amendments is not within your framework? Sorry, there are 7 members in the queue. Please make the best use of your time. Wu Chi-wai? Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about RE. At an earlier stage, after LED lamps became available, the LED energy efficiency effect triggered a round of discussion between the manufacturers and the residents. It is like a business. They will provide the maintenance and then they will try to come to an agreement with the OI in order to benefit all parties. That is to make use of the energy saving effect. To a certain degree, there may be a business opportunity resulting from RE, and the units of electricity will sell for $3 to $5 depending on the scale. I'd like to ask you, when the price is set, say, is it 10 years? Would there be a validity period for the price? And also certification of the installation. Would that be done by the two power companies? Would that be managed by the two power companies? And in the interim, if new technology becomes available, but because of the specification of the certification, then it will take longer for new technology to be introduced into the market. And therefore, there will be a delay of new business opportunities. Number 3, the RE installation, well, we can see some green loans or green funds. You have a new green building fund. I'd like to ask you, if an OI is interested in installing RE in the building, can they use this support fund in order to allow RE to be used in the same building? Last but not least, if you set up solar panels, you will have to set up another meter because you need to record the generation of power. This will be supplied by the two companies. But I'd like to know whether this must be converted into active current before it can be remunerated. because the active current conversion may in fact also use up some energy. I will kick off and then my colleagues will help. According to the paper, it is said that the two new agreements will run for 15 years. If a resident or a company takes part in the scheme, the unit will be priced at a certain level. If it is $5, then it will run for 10 years. But if they take part in the program later, they will have to subject themselves to the same deadline. That is the guarantee. Thank you. Any follow-up? In other words, the tariff will be adjusted every year. No, it depends when you take part in the program. If it is $5 in the first year, it will be $5 for 15 years. Sorry, I'd just like to follow up on one point, because the installation may be less or smaller in size as time passes. Well, there will be a meter recording how much energy is generated. If it is priced at $5, then $5 will be good for the entire project life of the installation. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai-keung, he is not here and it's my turn. And I have to say this to members. After I have asked questions, the Deputy Chairman will chair the meeting on my behalf. I'd like to ask about business registration. When will you amend the law? When will you table it to LegCo, or are you going to resort to administrative measures, and in what month are you going to do it? Because for one company, the agreement will start in October and another one in January next year. And also I'd like to ask the two power companies. You have set up hotlines and email accounts. I'd like to ask you, ever since the announcement, how many inquiries have you received? Are they your customers or contractors? I'd like to know whether there are fewer for Hong Kong Electric. I live on Hong Kong Island, but I don't think I have a lot of space.
Does the government have any estimate as to the ratio between CLP and HAE, please? Thank you, Chair. Concerning the BR and also the profit tax, our target is that for individual users, for the tariff at the initial stage, there would not be a requirement for paying of profit tax. Well, that's a target. When do you want to come up to the LegCo? As soon as possible. All right. Is that the answer? All right. For the government, is there an estimate as to the ratio between the CLP and the HAE, please? Thank you, Chair. For the existing agreement, we have about 70 plus or 80 which have been completed. As for the TIF, we already have a website and also we have a hotline with the relevant information. As of today, we have received inquiries just on renewable energy. Inquiries total 13 so far, and this is just a beginning. And actually, by January of next year, I'm sure we will have more residents and corporations, etc., who will be coming forth with show of interest or inquiries. CLP, please. Yes, in our system there are already 300 renewable connections. We will be reaching out to these customers to see how they would want to connect up to the grid. And also, after the media had publicized the information, we have received over 100 inquiries, and of those, many of them are about the tariffs, and about 30 is about the building fund, eco-building fund. The government, do you think there will be perhaps a ratio with this very attractive tariff between the CLP and HKE, what do you think would be the customer participation rate between the two companies? Chair, simply put, I think it is difficult for us to assess the response. There are different scenarios. Some are very responsive, some not so. And together with the E&M, we are looking at the possibility of rooftop installations where there is sufficient sunlight. How much space do we really have to install solar panels in the on the Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and the new territories? We will find that out. Now, when will you have that information? The Poly University seems to have some information. Well, Madam Chair, I don't think this will affect the discussion in society. When it's time, we will come with the relevant information. Well, I have to vacate the seat. The Vice Chair will now chair the meeting. Now, on this paper, CB 1809-04, this is still the paper we are discussing. Next, Leung Yu Chung. Thank you, Chair. About 3 years ago, Chair, the CLP, we've had a discussion with CLP, and I said to them, I have a relative who has a rooftop which perhaps is good for installation of solar panels, and they're very good, and sent a team to this relative of mine. And it was said that the sunlight is not all that sufficient, and also the break-even would be some 20 years or 30 years from now. Now, this is my own rooftop is 600 to 700 square feet, and it was told me that it will take up about 2/3 or more of the area of my rooftop, and that's not very ideal because I do plant some flowers on my rooftop. I do not know whether since then things have improved, whether less than 2/3 of the area can be used, and whether the break-even will be earlier. Now, rooftop planting of flowers is something that's very normal, and if the panels are to take up a large area and I cannot plant anything, that would not be good. That's only natural. And that will be wasting my rooftop. So for certain users, that would be very discouraging for them. So is there something that can be done as a solution? That's the first question. Second question, Po Tai Island. I've been following up on that for 4 years because there is no electricity supply there, and we would want to provide renewable energy, but still they are now still using power generators, and in April the HAE has come up with the paper on renewable energy. I'm at a loss as to why on this island still, with very few residents, and why renewable energy cannot be provided. And it's said that the study will have to go on until the end of the year. Why does it take so long? Why is it not so feasible? The third question concerning taking care of the disadvantaged sectors and providing meters for subdivided units. Well, in fact, we've had a lot of meetings with the HKE. What is the difficulty? It's the owner of the flat, or if they don't want to be cooperative, the law doesn't help them. That is to say, however much subsidy you provide the owner, as long as he's not willing to provide these independent meters for the subdivided units, then nothing can be done. Now, it says that the companies taking care of the disadvantaged sectors. That all sounds great, but on the other hand, with no legislative support, nothing can really be done. And according to my understanding, the CLP is very generous. They have a team dedicated to installing these meters. But on finding out, these are volunteers from the CLP staff. So on paper, it all sounds very grand. But in actual fact, I do not see any effect. These are the three questions. Mr. Wong. The first question. Thank you, Chair. The panels, their effectiveness evolves with time. And also in terms of price, it is 4 times more. So the system evolves. What about the area covered by the panels? Mr. Leung, actually for the built buildings, there are more restrictions, but for the newly built buildings, there will be a different design so as to allow this space. Now, overseas, for solar panels, they can coexist with certain plants, depending on which species of plants. So they can coexist. Grass and plants and flowers, they can coexist with the solar panels. That's been the overseas experience. HKE, the Potai Island question. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Leung, I can very responsibly tell you for the Potai Island, we have been putting in all our efforts. And this scheme on the island, we have actually opened it to enter the competition, and we have been given a major award. We have put in all our efforts. As for the legislative part for renewable energy, on the island there is an issue which is sticky, and that is a issue of land. It is not that we're shirking responsibilities. We've been very proactive, and we would want to bring about results as soon as possible. Yes, the other question about subdivided units. Wait for the next round. We've already had discussions on this. The next member, please. Wait for your next round. Yik Chi-ming. Thank you, Chair. Now, the government is adamant in promoting conservation with natural gas and renewable energy. I think everybody's supportive of that. And for natural gas generation, the companies, electricity companies, had said that they're under pressure because of cost of fuel. As far as I know, for solar energy, financially, it is not feasible, and that is why the government is saying they will provide 4 times the tariffs to buy the energy from you. Now, on TV, you're saying, Mr. Wong, that ratio-wise, it is a very small impact on the tariffs. But this is exactly my question. 4 times the price you're paying. Now, if in the future, if the electricity companies are not able to sell their generated electricity, what then? Well, the people of Hong Kong will pitch in and buy all that electricity. Now, it is 1% now. What about 20% or 30% in the future? And I'm sure everybody will be shouldering that extra price, that according to your logic. Do you think that you should set a ceiling? As a lowly member of the public, if they are to shoulder this kind of cost, they may find it a point of disgruntle. Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the support for low-carbon transitioning or transformation. But as Mr. Yik mentioned, we are not at that rate yet. I mean, we are not at that ratio yet. I mean, we're not talking about a situation with deserts all around, etc. And to a certain extent, it will be ameliorated by renewable energy. But on the other hand, the ratio of renewable energy is still small, and it is less than 1% according to our assessment. That is the objective truth. But the government will provide some cross-departmental support. That is to say, Hong Kong will increase our renewable energy ratio. The corporates will do their part, and the government will do their part as well. That is the overall situation. Now, if you're saying that you're encouraging the two power companies to provide green energy, and then for the people of Hong Kong to shoulder that cost, I'm fine with that. But on the other hand, you're now saying that there are these individuals who will be connecting up to the grid and selling at 4 times the tariff, and you're asking the people of Hong Kong to pay for that. I think they may have a problem with that. But of course, if there is an offset with the certificate, however much is generated, however much is also purchased, that's fine. But on the other hand, if the ratio is to be increased for this kind of energy supply in the future, what then? Now, if you're saying that it is a very small ratio and it doesn't really impact the overall tariff, what if it becomes a bigger ratio? Yes, this solar energy and renewable energy, the cost will be higher than the usual cost of generation. But on the other hand, everybody benefits from this kind of generation. Everybody enjoys the fruit of environmental protection. Mr. Chair, I think the government has a role to play. If lower emissions is achieved, there will be less medical expenses, and there should be a subsidy from the government as a result of that. The government has a very clear role to play, in my opinion. Now, Mr. Wong, is there a scenario that you can perhaps project? Let's say the 40,000 small houses in the new territories, if they're all supportive of this program, then how much impact will there be if they all install these rooftop installations? And if it's not $5, at least $4 per unit, what then? What are the calculations? What are the projections? If you have that on hand, share it with us even now. Yes, let me just explain. As I have mentioned, for all building rooftops in Hong Kong, we are looking at the capacity for installation of solar panels.
So we'll know the potential for installation of solar panels, and then we can multiply that with the FIT. Having said that, we can go on to the next step. Maybe the EMSD can brief us on the latest progress. Well, I know how to calculate it more or less. I'm not an expert, but I can imagine it. Well, you can submit the figure to Mr. Frankie Yik later. And we also want to know, but if you are too successful, who will pay for it? You can do your calculations later. Next one, Mr. Ted Hui. Thank you, Chair. It's the right direction to take for you to introduce FIT. The highest price is $5, which is at quite a good level. But given the present situation in Hong Kong, those who live in villas and village houses, and for those people who can set up solar panels on the rooftop, there are just 180,000. And together with the building legislation and minor works cost, perhaps only a fraction of these people will generate electricity at home. Let us look at certain studies. We say there are 310,000 buildings in Hong Kong. 75% of the rooftops can allow solar panels to be set up. And the power generation can take up 10% of total energy generated. And let us see if we can compare with other countries. Very often, when they introduce FIT, they use a multi-pronged approach to encourage power generation in the entire community. Why would the EB just go for the FIT and also the certification? In Australia, there is direct public funding. And also there are hire purchase schemes to encourage OIs and commercial buildings and residents to set up these panels. And in Japan, apart from cash subsidy, there can be salary tax rebates. Other governments are doing this. Why is the Hong Kong government not doing it? Also ask the same question of the two power companies. You have the Green Building Fund, in other words, the Eco Building Fund for CLP and also Smart Power Fund for HAE. If you use the same fund to encourage OIs and also commercial buildings to set up solar panels, then you can really involve many people. Or if I don't have the space but I have money, can you allow people to invest in this? Can you set up RE funds and issue bonds? Other people can do it. Why we are not doing it? Secretary, I will answer briefly. Different places use different tricks, but we are the government with the most money. Well, certain cities may adopt certain means, and you want to look at the source, and that is there must be an economic incentive in order to trigger interest in the community. Now we are proposing $5 per unit and guaranteed for 15 years. You don't need to use many tricks, but it must be effective. In certain places, they don't use a lot of different ways, but they are effective. In Japan, they may not be entirely successful. The objective environment is such that in Japan, many people have their own rooftops, and the response is much better than expected, and therefore they are actually taking back the incentives. Therefore, it is not that Japan will necessarily succeed because they provide many carrots. We will be reviewing the fit, but in Hong Kong, what are the other elements? Why doesn't the government come in with some subsidies or loans? What elements or factors have you considered? Chairman or Secretary? If you have space on your rooftop, and if it's $5 per unit, if you have sunlight and if the panels are at a certain angle, it is guaranteed that within 10 years you will be able to recoup the cost, and the panels can last for 20 years. In fact, it is a very healthy incentive. Do we need more incentives? Chairman, can you give them some time, some short time for them to answer? Yes, 1 minute. Well, I think you will just be providing the fit. You are not going to issue debentures, right? It is not for you to issue those. CLP power? Under the new SCA, apart from fit and RE certificates, we have two funds in order to help the disadvantaged and also promote EEC in society. Actually, under the product purchase scheme, it doesn't include solar panels. But in Hong Kong, we can see contractors which are providing financial resources already. And we would like to leave this to market forces. Hong Kong Electric. I agree with CLP power. Just like to add one point. We are talking about two things today. One, RE. Two, EEC. But both would like to help save energy in order to tackle climate change and air quality. If our funds are spent on RE instead of EEC, the effectiveness may decrease. Oh yes, we can look into that again. Mr. Kenneth Lau, Chairman. The new policy is such that if solar panels are set up, then the generated energy will attract $3 to $5 per unit. The two power companies are providing this incentive to promote public-private participation. We support this. The Hon Chi-fung thinks that we can promote solar energy in the NT because such panels can be set up on village houses. According to para 18 of the paper, the individuals have to go for business registration and they also have to fill out a profits tax return. I hope the administration will deregulate by changing the legislation. Or else if you ask villagers to start a company and fill out a profits tax return, it is unrealistic and they will shy away from the scheme. I hope you will promote this. And at present, there will be different restrictions on using RE for village houses and small houses. For village houses, they can set up solar panels, but then they will be limited by 1.5 meters. In other words, no adults can walk beneath these solar panels. So it's unrealistic. But there is a different stipulation for small houses. If they set up small environment facilities, they are also subject to different restrictions. Therefore, I think the promotion will be made very difficult. You need to seek approval from the Buildings Department and the Lands Department. Now, I think we need to do something about this because people will shy away and at the same time, residents will also be caught by the relevant laws inadvertently because these will be regarded as unauthorized building works. What can the government do about this? Please deregulate and provide one-stop service so people don't have to run from one department to another for approval. Well, together with the Development Bureau, we are having an active discussion. We hope that for NT-exempted houses, since we are going to promote an energy-efficient style of living, we will try to provide flexibility to help indigenous villages to set up solar panels and RE. When we have details after the discussion, we'll announce them. What is the overall timetable? We hope that we can do so within the year. We hope to make decisions and announce them. Do you think December is within the year? We'll do it as soon as possible. But the FIT will start in October. If you say within the year, well, we are starting the discussion today on the 23rd of April. Will it be that you will get some ideas in May? Chairman, I understand where you come from. In October, one of the power companies will start to have FIT. We will do interdepartmental liaison. Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you, Chairman. I exactly have the same question as Mr. Kenneth Lau. Actually, energy saving and emission reduction, of course, we support those. Now, you are talking about RE. If we succeed, it will be very attractive because it will be $5 per unit for FIT. And if many people join, well, as you said, there may be a problem. And I hope you will issue a guideline sooner. You may need to consider certain laws and regulations. Say you do something on your rooftop, and if too many people do it, I don't want to repeat the experience of greening rooftops before. Some problems arose, and then only after that happened, you issue guidelines for people. But you know, residents have a simple way of thinking because if it's attractive, then people will flock to do it. People may use the rooftop, but they may think about setting high up panels so they can also use the rooftop, etc. I hope you will also be aware of that possible scenario. The buildings may compete to do it, and in the end, even if you are successful with your scheme, problems can arise. In October, you mean to roll this out, but I hope you will issue guidelines before that because it's going to be attractive. Second question, offsetting. You mentioned RE certificates. Certainly, would like to encourage the large volume users to buy them. The government is one, and some other enterprises also use a lot of energy, including MTR, I think. In this connection, I'd like to ask the administration whether it has plans to set down targets, say, well, the proportion will be small and the tariff might go up because you need to pay a lot to buy RE. So do you have targets in order to play a leading role to promote the buying of these certificates? Thank you, Mr. Chair, for helping us reduce carbon emission and transformation. Well, the EMSD will update RE regulation in due course, and they will clarify details. In the coming few months, it will talk to solar panel contractors and seek to liaise with them early so as to seek a clearer understanding. That has been arranged. Also, together with departments, we are looking at laws and regulations. As you know, those are very complicated and specialized. As for RE certificates, the government will embark on the use of RE on a major scale. And we have promised that even if we generate electricity, we are not going to sell them for FIT. This is a government act that can show the biggest support. What about the MTR? Will you encourage them? In overseas countries, large enterprises have their CSR. And in advanced places, the public can also do it. The more the merrier. This is the mainstream way of doing it in the world. Well, Chairman, one thing. Hearing the Secretary, well, I'm afraid that if many people embark on RE, including wind power, there may be an impact on building safety. I hope you will issue guidelines early. Or you can educate people as to what can be done, or else there may be a mess.
Yes, we are aware of that concern. That's why we have been talking with the relevant department, and the website of the E&M Services Department is also updated. Yes, I totally understand, Mr. Wong, the thinking behind. This is my question. Yes, it is good intention. And the government is providing the impetus for it. The last term of government as well as this term, you want the program to be successful, you want the users to benefit, and also the high-tech solar panels, etc., will have a market. And also, as Chair Wai Chun had mentioned, perhaps the AP should look at the building safety, and also the contractors will participate, and the two power companies will also benefit because it is less carbon emissions for them. So, given all these benefits, we should have a timetable as early as possible. And Mr. Lau from the Hon Hui Chi-fung, we know that there are these the number 7 and number 8 of the households. For example, which households or which buildings are suitable for solar panel installation, what is the height, what is the area of the rooftops. Can you perhaps come up with certain standards or a pilot scheme together with the relevant departments so that the large number of small houses and village houses in new territories can participate in this scheme? And also perhaps in Island South as well. They can take a leave from this as well. And given that, I think we will have a better chance of success. and everybody can work according to these standards. Well, definitely, not only the 6.7th, the citizens of Hong Kong also get to benefit from cleaner air. Right. We are working closely with the departments, as mentioned just now in my answer to Mr. Chair. Even though there are certain challenges, we will have to work through them. But it's not just the village or houses or the small houses in the new territories that can participate, but also commercial buildings and residential buildings, shopping malls, and some schools, for instance, and non-profit organizations. This is an opportunity for all these entities and parties. We need a big picture. We need to know where we have the space and the room for further optimization. I hope you understand. Yes, I totally understand. And our opinion raised is also in keeping with that spirit that you've mentioned. And yes, the citizens of Hong Kong would all benefit from the cleaner air. But what we're saying is that if you have a pilot scheme, like a showroom, if you can propose that and come up with the standards, that would be great. And also, for some of the rooftops, for the small houses or the village houses, if you can have certain standards as soon as possible, they can come out, then we can expedite the whole thing. Thank you. Mr. Chair, as everybody knows, technology today for some small-scale renewable energy generators, in fact, or generating systems, the efficiency is not all that high. But everybody is very conscious about environmental protection, and everybody wants to use these renewable energy generators. But on the other hand, it is just a subsidy scheme. I think everybody will have to be very clear about this point. It is not a solution, really, for long-term energy source, and it is not, given present-day information, it is not a source for cheap or low-tariff energy. I think everybody should really get to understand that point first, and I'm sure it is already a point of consensus. So whatever measures and policies we come up with, I really have to point this out, and that is, as we use more natural gas, and we are facing in the international market, tariff fluctuations in the international market, then what does it bode for us for the medium and long-term tariff levels? I mean, we have the two power companies here, and we have the government as well. I would like to know from them what their view of this is. And from the two power companies, if we can hear from them as to the future of tariff and also the cost for fuel, how will it increase in the future? What is their view? The two power companies, CLP. Thank you, Chair. Because of the government's environmental protection scheme, yes, we'll be using more natural gas for generation in the future. And we also understand that natural gas cost is higher than that of coal. How do we cut down on cost of fuel so that our tariff would not be as high? Well, one of the means is in purchasing of natural gas. We want the source to be more diversified so that our bargaining power would increase so as to lower our fuel cost. And in this regard, we have always been saying that we should, in Hong Kong, have an offshore storage for natural gas so that we can have LNG. Not only we have more stable source, but also increase our bargaining power for purchasing natural gas. And in the future, this will help with our cost of fuel in the long term. Thank you. HKE, please. Yes, I thank Mr. Low for the question. Yes, there will be pressure for tariffs in the future. CLP had answered that very well just now. And also, we all remember the $40 per barrel oil price, but it is already coming up to $80 now. And overall, energy tariff or cost is increasing. And also, it's already come to a time when some of our systems will have to be taken off as they are becoming obsolete. So yes, we will have to be reviewing costs and tariffs in the future. Chu Hai-tik, thank you, Chair. I'm looking at the report from the government mentioning the potentials for renewable energy being 3% to 4%. And I'm looking at solar power for 20 Victoria Parks is going to be 20%. I mean, if we cover 20 Victoria Parks, that would be 20% of the provision of energy. And then I also see from the government that the Plover Cove reservoirs and other reservoirs can be used, assuming that we do not build on those reservoir lands. The Plover Cove would be 1,000 hectares. My question is for the government, what is this 3% and 4%? What is your basis for coming up with that kind of projection? And with TIF, will you be adjusting this percentage, that is, adjusting it upwards? I have a different thinking with Low Wai Kwok. I think with technological advancement every year, the cost will come down for generation. And perhaps for renewable energy and solar energy, the cost of generation would be the same as fossil fuel. And if it is a conservative 3% to 4% projection on the part of the government, the entire Hong Kong putting in so much efforts, and after 10 years it's still 3 to 4%, then I think we will be lagging behind the other international cities around the world. That's my first question. As for the second question concerning the sign-up period, at present, the TIF will also change according to the in accordance with the changes given time. But for the FIT, would it be a situation where the later I sign up, all the more I will be able to protect the my FIT, because I do not know whether in the future I will not be able to benefit from the so-called concession. What I'm trying to say is that in some other countries, such as Taiwan, there is no deadline as such. As whenever you sign up, it will be good for 10 years. There is no time limit or deadline as such. And the third question, a lot of people seem to be interested now in solar panels, but which panels are really good, or which contractors are good? Can we do some comparison? And perhaps the government and the relevant departments will be able to help the people of Hong Kong do these comparisons, or maybe the EMSD can help. Yes, the EMSD has a website to provide this kind of information. There will be transparency, and we'll be working together with the stakeholders and the industry to provide this kind of information. As for the first question, according to the Paris Accord, we know that there will be a review every 5 years, and according to our blueprint and according to the original assessment, we also take into account the FIT possibility for wind and solar and other renewable energies. We have come up with a 3 to 4% ratio from renewable energy. But of course, we will be looking and reviewing that as we go along. Now, as for the 15-year time frame, for some countries, their experience is 10 years or 20 years, and this has to do with the level of tariff as well. We will also be reviewing this situation, and basically we want to ascertain that this feed-in tariff would be attractive at any given time so that people would want to participate in it. Mr. Wong, perhaps that's what you personally want to do, but from the two power companies, if they don't think that this is feasible, what then? Is there any restrictions on them, or is it binding on them? Well, Chair, the early birds, if they, under the system, if they're able to break even at year 10, after that, every unit of generation is profit for them. So you're saying the earlier they participate and join, the better? Yes, that is the international experience. Liu Cheng-kong, please. Yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair. According to information, we see that for CLP covered area, for the 300 regenerated energy, it is 70% for schools and other non-profit organizations, and it is 9% to 11% for residential and also commercial concerns. Now, there is a new control scheme with a 15-year timeline. My question is, within 10 years, would the investment cost be recuperated depending on the scale of the system, the capacity of production, etc., or the output? Now, for the large-scale residential estates, will you be looking into their break-even point? That's the first question. And secondly, for these major residential estates and major commercial buildings, sometimes the building is owned by, or different flats are owned by different owners. Do you have any scheme to help these multi-owner buildings to install these renewable energy installations, please?
Thank you, Mr. Martin Liao. EMSD will update their RE website to put in the relevant information. I think the EMSD can consider including the cost recovery period and successful cases to share with the public so people will see what will happen in different scenarios. The data will be fed to the market. If the market is interested, I'm sure it will also provide its own information to owners. In Hong Kong or even in other places, if an owner owns the space or the rooftop, it is easy. But very often, we have divided shares in buildings, and sometimes you have a management company. We will liaise with the property management companies. Therefore, in the coming months, the EMSD will hold briefings and seminars for them to understand what this is and to show them that in certain cases, the cost effectiveness is quite high, and that will provide an incentive for the community. But do you have targeted or specific incentive schemes for different buildings? Mr. Liao, some of the members asked us how we could provide other incentives apart from FIT. When we gave overall consideration to the issue, we think that there are two principles that will make the scheme attractive. One, the relatively attractive FIT level. That is important, and the early birds will have a guarantee for that price for over 10 years. Two, in disseminating our information, we will try to use the website to enhance transparency and clarity of information. I think these two are the most important starting points. But what about the recovery period for large residential buildings and also commercial buildings? Do you have a specific arrangement for that? Under the two new SCAs, which will run for 15 years, that also represents the deadline for taking part in FIT. Therefore, the earlier you join, the more you will earn. One member, Mr. Eddie Chu, for the second round. We have overrun the designated discussion time for this item by 15 minutes. So 2 minutes for Mr. Eddie Chu. Thank you, Chairman. The Secretary said that there is this early bird concession or incentive. The earlier you join, the more concessions you enjoy. Well, I am not sure that's the way to go, because the objective of the scheme is to involve as many people as possible. Whether people should flock in the early stage, it may not be the best, because a few years down the road, the scheme may be more powerful, and therefore the energy generation volume can also increase. Back to my earlier point, if the incentive is not continuous and stable, then I don't know whether that is really the situation you want to see, Secretary, that people descend into the scheme in the first 2-3 years. And pressure may be brought to bear on different parties, and then that may ward off other people. So perhaps you should publicize more that people need not rush into the scheme. You just want to have a continuous feed of participants. Chairman, perhaps I did not make myself clear. Please do not understand the scheme. Please do not misunderstand the scheme. Compared to other cities, we are not a pioneer in terms of FIT, and the technology is more or less mature. Some people started much earlier than ourselves, and technology has indeed advanced. But the beauty of joining early is that you can enjoy the entire 50-year span, because the $5 per unit will run for 15 years. Mr. Zhu, you are correct. Technology continues to develop. If people have the possibility of joining later, and if the solar panels become more effective, even if the FIT will drop from $5 to $4, there will still be continued attractiveness, and I'm sure different people will join at different times. But still, on the face of it, $5 is more than $4, and the earlier you join, you'll be able to enjoy that higher tariff early. Just look at Japan and other places. They have a similar setup. They also provide early bird incentives. This is not the objective, but it is an objective scenario. Okay, that's it for this item. We share the same concept. Well, I'm not afraid that people will rush into the scheme. I just ask you to provide clear and transparent information. It may not be sufficient if you only do it on the website. You need to tell people exactly what they can do and should do in participating in the scheme. You may even want to provide the dimensions, for example, of the panels that people can use. Please quicken your pace in order to issue more specific guidelines. Thank you very much, and thank you to two power companies. Next item. My papers are all messed up.
好啊，就呢一個啦，污水。
冇錯，咁佢就兩個，其實兩嚿嘢嚟嘅。
OK。
所以個 paper 裏邊有兩個附件。
呢個 item 5啊。
係，冇錯。
一個。
咁就有個 PowerPoint 嘅。
好，下一個環節咧就請。
Next item, can we invite Undersecretary Mr. Che Chin-wan and his team to come in now? Thank you. There is a PowerPoint, Undersecretary. Sorry to have kept you waiting because the solar energy item attracted a lot of interest, so we assigned more time for it. We will still end at 4:30 unless the discussion will prove to be long. Without much ado, please introduce the paper. Thank you, Deputy Chairman. We have 1,800 kilometers of underground sewers. Many of them are decades old and are aging. We need to conduct systematic and investigation and relaying of the pipes. And we are going to propose two items costing about $1.1 billion in order to rehabilitate underground sewers. And also we need to surveys on aging pipes. As for the details of the scheme, may I defer to DSD, please? Thank you, Chairman. I will introduce the two projects for discussion today. The first one, part of 4414DS, rehabilitation of underground gravity sewers. The second one, 4344DS, the upgrading of Central and East Kowloon Sewerage Phase 3 project. First, the 4414DS, rehabilitation of underground sewers first. All along, the DSD inspects and maintains the 1,800 kilometer-long underground sewers in Hong Kong, and repairs will be made when defects are detected. As many of, actually half of these sewers have been used for 30 years or more, and we expect that there will be a higher demand for rehabilitation. It is therefore necessary for us to do a specific and detailed condition survey in order to detect and also rectify any wear and tear and damage of these sewers. In 2012, we started a consultancy study, which is a risk-based project in order to look at the years of usage and also possible aging pipe collapse and resulting in road subsidence, etc., in order to do this survey. And 75 kilometers of condition survey and also 19 kilometers of rehabilitation are included in the 4414DS, that is the rehabilitation of the territory's sewers. We are going to do it in phases so that we can, in a timely manner, identify and rectify risky pipes. We are introducing part of 4414DS, that is Phase 1, to members today, which includes a condition survey of about 75 kilometers of underground gravity sewers and also rehabilitation of about 7 kilometers of such sewers. We are going to be in all the 18 districts in Hong Kong. In November last year until March this year, We went to the 18 district councils for consultation, and we have got their support. If we get funding support, expect to start the works in the fourth quarter this year for completion in the fourth quarter of 2022. And according to money of the day prices, this will cost about $391.9 million. Next, I will go through the way we are going to do the rectification work. We are going to use trenchless technology. And we are going to install internal lining through the sewers. We will insert an epoxy soft lining into problematic sewers, and we'll use thermal energy in order to solidify it. We may also use ultraviolet light to solidify it in order to allow it to upgrade to the necessary strength for the loading of the pipe. That's it for 4414DS. Next, we will talk about the second project, which is 4344DS, upgrading of Central and East Kowloon Sewerage, Phase 3. The purpose is to build sewers with larger diameters in order to replace existing sewers with insufficient volume. This will increase the loading of sewers in order to take care of future planning and changing in demographics in Central and East Kowloon. After the project, it will take care of the present problem of insufficient capacity of the sewers, and it will also increase the capacity of the relevant sewers. This shows the coverage of Phase 3 of 4434DS. This will take place in Central Kowloon. It would include demolition of about 7 kilometers of existing gravity sewers, and we are going to rehabilitate another 450. You will see that it will include Shim Sa Tsui, Hong Ham, To Kwa Wan, Ma Cha Wai, Kowloon City, and San Pu Kong. And in Shim Sa Tsui, we are going to rehabilitate about 450 meters of gravity sewer. Phase 3 of 4344DS is the subject of consultation with the Yau Chim Wong DC, Kowloon City DC, and Wong Tai Sin DC in March this year. The relevant DCs supported our proposal.
The project, if we get the approval from the Finance Committee, we will be able to commence works in the fourth quarter of this year and be able to complete in the first quarter of 2024. And the money of the day cost would be 680.9 million Hong Kong dollars. These are the two projects. And next month, we will be coming to the PWSC of the LegCo, and hopefully in June we will be able to go to the Finance Committee to seek approval for the budget. Chair Wei Chun. Thank you, Chair. Of course, for us to invest in infrastructure and public facilities with Hong Kong as an international city, this is something that we really have to do. So in principle, I'm in support of this. We have heard from the department concerning the sewer system in Hong Kong, 1,800 kilometers long, and half of that is over 30 years of age. Now, this is, of course, a risk-based project, or we adopt that kind of thinking, but for the longer term, I mean, what about that? You have been projecting all the way out to 2020. And what I'm concerned about, Chairman, is that, yes, this is risk-based, but on the other hand, the consideration is that we have an aging sewer system. So in terms of forward thinking, what do we have to do? We need the funding for future planning, I'm sure, and perhaps this is a point where you can provide some forward thinking and get the funding for future need. I mean, this is for this project. This is it projects out to 2020. But I think we should have some long-range planning for this kind of infrastructure facilities. That's the first question. Second question concerning the waste produced from the works. I understand you saying that there will be a non-trenched or common trench to minimize excavation works, but this is 4,500 inert waste to be produced from the construction. What exactly is it? Is it the pipings that's been taken off? What exactly is a waste? Because I'm concerned about the construction waste. Thank you very much for the questions. First of all, concerning the aging sewer system, let me talk about the way we see it, and then we will be answering the question on construction waste. Now, first of all, as colleagues have pointed out, for the 1,800 kilometers, over half of them is over 30 years of age. And therefore, we already have at the department, the relevant department already has a assessment program, and there is periodic works done on the system. And it is a risk-based system, and we find that 19 kilometers would require further works, and 7 kilometers is in question now, and the rest of it, the 12 kilometers, is being looked at, and there will be design work done, and they will come back for further funding approval. And for the 70 kilometers or so, we need further surveillance to see what kind of works is necessary. And the report of the surveillance will come back, and then there will be prioritization of the works on the sewers, and then there will be an application for resources or finances to do the works. Now, for the high-risk parts, there will be some special handling procedures. So this is basically the way how we handle the aging sewers. And this is a continuous process. Where there are problems, we will be solving them. Perhaps on the construction waste, the department will answer the question. Concerning construction waste, as mentioned just now in the PPT, the works that we carry out will basically be in such a way that we will open up the manhole, and then we will insert a flexible tube into the underground, and then it will be solidified. This flexible tube or pipe that will be inserted underground, because for the original pipe, there will be a lot of deposits and sediments after years and years of use. We will have to clean that up first, extract it, before we can insert the new tube. So this 4,500 tons is, according to our assessment, what we need to excavate in terms of deposits. And this cannot be reused. We will have to take this to the landfills. Ho Chi-Ming, Chair, for this kind of works, of course, we will be supportive of them. But I'm thinking whether we can do it in better detail. Now, I've also experienced certain trunk road situations where you have to block off the trunk roads to do the sewer works. Of course, perhaps it's not avoidable, but on the other hand, how can we do this better? For example, for trunk roads between district councils, for example, the Choi Hong area, the Wong Tai Sin District Council would be in the know, would be notified, but not the Kwun Tong one. But in fact, it would cause traffic problems for Kwun Tong as well. So this is true for other districts as well. Yes, we understand the need for this kind of works, but I'm talking about communication. At least the other districts, the drivers will at least know why there is traffic congestion. If this can be done well, then perhaps the Prince Edward Road West, the District Council, and that for that part of the area should be notified as well. It is difficult to go to all the district councils, but at least the users of the road would know why there is why there are traffic congestions, and when the works will be completed and things will go back to normal, so as to avoid more grievances on the road. Thank you. Yes, I think we will have to extend the meeting for another 15 minutes. I myself have questions as well. So Ho Kai-ming is saying communication with the district councils and the locals would be important. How would you go about that? Yes, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ho, for the reminder, especially for cross-district communication works. Yes, we will have to step up with the communication. That's a wonderful suggestion. As for the underground recovery work, even though it is 7 kilometers, but in fact there are 500 sections of roads affected, and it is some 1,900 spots that will have to be recovered. And yes, the works should be communicated on well. Yes, we will go back and think about how we can improve our communications. Yes, Mr. Hui? Right. The paragraph 3 there, it says that the recommended sewerage upgrading works had been divided into 3 parts, and there was a 94 kilometers stretch that was identified. Now we're looking at 4414 first of all, and 4414 DS says that another 75 kilometers is to be surveyed, and 7 kilometers will be rehabilitated. Now, for the 75 kilometers of surveillance, with 1,800 kilometers as a base, that's about 4% or 4-point-something%. And you're talking about 2015 for the underground sewers. Are you saying that all the underground sewers will be surveyed by then? I mean, I do not understand this. The phasing of these 1,800 kilometers of sewer, how long would it take for the entire system to be surveyed? What is a macro plan, and how much money will have to be spent on this? Coming today is a 4414 DS project, which but you're talking about 1,800 kilometers with 50% of them over 30 years old. So how much are you talking about for the surveillance of the entire system? Do you have any projections on time and costs, please? No, we do not have such a plan because it really depends on the result of the surveillance. Will you be surveying all 1,800 kilometers, simply put? Well, the department has said ongoing works. So it is not a blank for all 1,800 kilometers, but there will be a risk assessment for the underground sewer according to the information they have, the location, their years in service, etc. And we find that 94 kilometers where we think it is high risk, for this 94 kilometers we will have to do rehabilitation work. And of this, as I've mentioned, 19 kilometers, because of the department's normal work, they already have the information and they do not need to do the surveillance on this stretch. And for 7 kilometers, we already have the works design, and that's why we're coming to this meeting today with it. And the 19 kilometers, they need more time for the design of the works and also consultation with the district councils. And also because these are larger projects, there will be traffic impact, and they will need more time to look at the traffic impact. And so the concept is that for 1,800 kilometers, we will choose a high-risk stretches to do the detailed surveys or rehabilitation, so we need not survey the 1,800 kilometers in total because they already have their normal works carried out. Now, for the 50%, which is over 30 years old, that's 900 kilometers. And with your present proposal, the survey is for 75 kilometers. And the few hundred kilometers remaining, as you mentioned, for some of that, it is not in such bad shape from what you gathered or the departments gathered from their normal works. But still, I'm thinking for this 1,800 kilometers, if half of it is already aged, then shouldn't we have a long-term plan as to how this part of the sewer should be surveyed? I'm just asking whether you have a longer-term projection or plan. I mean, for these two projects, of course, all those at present at the meeting will give you support. This is necessary work. But we're asking whether you have better, longer-ranging, longer-term planning so that we can be more effective in our works. Yes, perhaps I should supplement, Chair. First of all, as mentioned, half of the sewer system is over 30 years old, but that doesn't mean that they're about to break right away. The lifespan is life expectancy is 40 to 50 years old, really.
It's just that if they are 30 years old, we'll have to watch them more closely. In Hong Kong, we have 1,800 kilometers of sewers. Our assessment is that since we have been keeping them under observation, we understand their structural condition. There are 5 levels for structural condition. If they are at the lowest 2 rungs, we'll work on them. Out of these 1,800 kilometers, those that are at level 4 and level 5 and need to be restored, our estimate is that they comprise 4 to 5% of the total kilometrage. In 2012, we started to do the survey. Within this 5%, some are of higher risk, but because of various reasons, we don't have condition survey results. However, we like to single out these 75 kilometers which are regarded as in a poor position, but which are not subject to survey results yet. Therefore, we are subjecting them to this condition survey, and if it is confirmed that they are at levels 4 and 5, then they will be fed into the project for rehabilitation. As for the 19 kilometers, why are there so few? Apart from regularly rehabilitated pipes, we have found these 90 kilometers which are the subject of concrete survey results, and they need to be rehabilitated, and that is why in 4414DS we have included 19 kilometers. Thank you, Director. When you go to PWSC, I think members will be interested in these issues, and your paper is not very clear. I'm a layman, and when I hear that we have 1,800 kilometers underground sewers, half of them are over 30 years old, and you say you will survey 75 and rehabilitate 19. Well, you are not connecting the issues. But if you tell the story as what you did now, then we are getting to know that 4 to 5% of that requires immediate attention, and there will be a more in-depth survey. So you need to spend the money. It is going to be money well spent. And maybe 5 years down the road, there will be another 5%. So perhaps you can also do a present analysis and a projection into the future. Well, that way you tell a more complete story. Please improve your paper, because at PWSC the same question may pop up.
好啊，咁啊，而家剩咗落嚟得阿謝偉銓同我，咁我
We have Tony Chair and myself. Tony supports the submission of the projects to PWSC for consideration, right? No objection. Thank you. That's it for the meeting today. Thank you.
局長都好好。
Secretary, that's good. We started late, but we are completing the discussion with just 5 more minutes outside the meeting time. Thank you.